let me tell you something truly wild. Medieval beauty standards weren't just strange, they were downright dangerous. We're talking about a world where people willingly smeared their faces with toxic metals, plucked back their hairlines until their foreheads stretched halfway up their skulls, and considered features we'd call unsettling today to be peak attractiveness. This wasn't vanity. This was survival in a society obsessed with symbolism, superstition, and status. And the deeper you go, the more shocking it becomes. Because medieval beauty wasn't about looking good. It was about looking worthy. And by the end of this video, you'll see medieval faces the way medieval people did. And trust me, you won't look at your own mirror the same way again. We need to start with a simple truth. Medieval beauty standards make absolutely no sense to the modern eye. Today we obsess over youth, symmetry, smoothness, and health. Back then, they wanted you to look like a delicate, ethereal creature who might faint if the wind blew too hard. In medieval Europe, beauty wasn't just aesthetics. It was morality made visible. A beautiful woman was considered virtuous. A plain woman, clearly less spiritually refined. And so medieval society built an entire beauty system on a foundation of symbolic meaning, not physical attraction. If you looked sickly pale, fragile, almost ghost-like, congratulations, you were the medieval version of a supermodel. But how they achieved that pale, ethereal look? Well, that's where the story gets disturbing. Imagine waking up in a frigid medieval house, lighting a tiny tallow candle for a bit of warmth and visibility, and reaching for your makeup. Instead of foundation, you dip your fingers into lead-based cream, a toxic paste that slowly eats your skin. But medieval women adored it. Why? Because white skin meant wealth. If you were pale, it meant you weren't working in the sun. Lead wasn't the only danger. They also used mercury-based vermilion for lip color, a substance known to cause tremors, paralysis, and hallucinations. And if the lead made their skin crack or peel, that wasn't a deal breaker. It was just another price of beauty. There's a medieval medical text describing a noblewoman whose face became so damaged by lead makeup that it peeled in sheets like parchment. Her solution? Applying more lead cream to smooth it out. This was beauty in the Middle Ages, an arms race of appearance, where the winner was whoever destroyed their skin slowest. But the face was only the beginning. You probably know modern beauty trends change fast, but nothing compares to the medieval forehead craze. For nearly 200 years, having a massive, domed forehead was considered the height of elegance. Not a normal forehead, not a big forehead, a colossal one, smooth, hairless, stretched like polished marble. Women plucked or shaved back their hairlines, sometimes 3 or 4 inches. Some manuscripts even describe women rubbing chemicals or hot cloth ash on their scalp to prevent regrowth entirely. Eyebrows gone, completely removed. The ideal look was a bare shining landscape from the top of the skull to the eyelids. A chronicler in the 15th century described a noble woman as radiantly smooth, as though God had carved her brow from ivory. That was a compliment. Why this obsession? Because in medieval symbolism, the forehead was the seat of wisdom. A big forehead meant a big mind, a sign of intelligence, purity, and divine favor. In other words, medieval men weren't checking out women's bodies, they were checking out their foreheads. And the lengths women went to achieve this look were, well, we'll get to that. But eyebrows are just the start. If you think modern mascara routines are tedious, imagine trying to achieve angelic eyes in the Middle Ages. They wanted eyes that looked watery, shimmering, almost feverish. Not bright, not sharp. Watery. Why watery? Because they believed tearful eyes made a woman look empathetic, gentle, and emotional, qualities deeply tied to medieval femininity. So what did they do? Brace yourself. Some women rubbed onion juice around their eyes before social events to induce a soft, glistening sheen. Others used herbs that caused mild irritation. And in some court circles, women boastfully compared how long they could keep the shimmer going without blinking too much. But here's where the real shock comes in. Some medieval beauty manuals recommended using a mixture of crushed belladonna to dilate the pupils. Belladonna, deadly nightshade, a poison that can kill you. It made the pupils huge and glossy. Again, a sign of angelic beauty. But long-term use caused blindness, and yet it became popular among elite noblewomen desperate to match the beauty standards of the time. So next time you're annoyed by a bad mascara wand, remember, at least you're not risking literal organ failure for pretty eyes. Beauty standards also depended heavily on your social class. For noblewomen, beauty was a political tool. A perfect face could mean a good marriage, alliances, land, status. There was constant pressure to perfect the forehead, lighten the skin, and maintain the angelic gaze. But for peasants, beauty was practical. You needed your hair because it kept you warm. You needed your eyebrows to prevent sweat from dripping into your eyes while working. You needed your natural skin because lead-based creams were expensive and toxic. So a noble woman could spend hours plucking back her hairline, while a peasant woman spent hours hauling water, harvesting grain, and surviving. But even peasants had their own beauty tricks: herbal rinses for hair, berries for lip color, charcoal for eye definition, and natural oils to smooth the skin after a long day in the sun. The contrast between these classes gives us a rare window into the medieval mind. Beauty wasn't just about looking attractive, but performing your place in society. And that brings us to one of the strangest beauty customs of all. Earlier, I promised to reveal the most shocking medieval beauty practice of all, and here it is. Medieval Europe adored a particular physical trait that today would be considered strange, even unsettling. A soft, round, almost childlike chin with no visible jawline. Today, we idealize sharp features, defined jaw, sculpted cheekbones, strong chin. But medieval people wanted the opposite. They preferred a face so gentle, so rounded, so smooth, it almost seemed like it lacked bones. This wasn't aesthetic, it was symbolic. A strong jaw meant aggression, masculinity, harshness. A soft jaw meant softness, obedience, and purity. One chronicler described a noble woman approvingly as having a chin that vanished as smoke does upon a breeze. And yes, some women intentionally padded under their veils to round their jawline, giving the illusion of a softer, more idealized profile. But it gets stranger. Medieval artists exaggerated this feature in paintings. That's why some medieval portraits look odd, distorted, almost uncanny. They weren't bad at drawing, they were following the beauty standards of the time. And those standards could bend reality. Let's take a moment to appreciate how far medieval women went to align themselves with these ideals. To whiten their teeth, some rinsed with vinegar, mixed with crushed charcoal. Effective, but damaging to enamel. To remove body hair, they used mixtures of arsenic, quicklime, and vinegar, basically chemical burns. To lighten hair, they sun-bleached it using lye, a caustic substance found in soap that could leave burns on the scalp. To shape their bodies, they layered tight undergarments that compressed their torso, giving them a narrow waist long before corsets became common. And to maintain the illusion of eternal youth, they slept with face wraps meant to smooth wrinkles. Beauty in the Middle Ages wasn't just strange, it was a daily battle fought with toxic weapons, and beneath it all was a deeper truth. Medieval beauty ideals weren't about desire, they were about meaning, purity, status, morality. Looks were a language, so what do medieval beauty standards reveal about the people who lived then? They lived in a world obsessed with symbolism, a world where your face didn't just show who you were, It announced your class, your character, your soul. Where beauty wasn't skin deep, it was a moral judgment. And yet, for all the strangeness, all the toxic powders and dangerous rituals, all the plucking, scraping, and bleaching, one truth connects their world to ours. Human beings have always been willing to suffer for beauty. The methods change, the ideals shift, but the desire, the longing, the pressure, that's timeless. The next time you look at a medieval painting and think, why on earth did they think that was beautiful? Remember, 500 years from now, people might say the same thing about us. Beauty is a mirror that never stops moving. And in the Middle Ages, that mirror reflected a world more shocking, more symbolic, and more unsettling than most people realize. But there's one more layer to medieval beauty that almost no one talks about. A layer so strange, so deeply rooted in symbolism, that it reshapes how we understand the entire medieval worldview. Because if you really want to know why these beauty standards were so bizarre, so dangerous, and so dramatically different from ours, you have to understand the one obsession that shaped every face, every gesture, every brush of powder in the Middle Ages. Fear. Medieval Europe lived under a constant shadow of fear. Fear of sin, fear of disease, fear of poverty, fear of divine judgment. Life was fragile, unpredictable, short. And so beauty became a form of spiritual armor. Your face had to signal purity because purity protected you. A smooth forehead wasn't just fashionable, it suggested a calm mind untouched by sinful thoughts. Pale skin wasn't vanity. It meant distance from the sinful, laboring world below. Delicate features meant innocence, passivity, and moral correctness. And suddenly, the strangest trends begin to make sense. A woman wasn't trying to be attractive in the modern sense. She was trying to look safe, blessed, favored, untouched by the chaos of the world. That's why medieval art looks the way it does. The elongated limbs, the softened chins, the impossibly pale faces, they weren't mistakes. They were faith made visible. But what's even more fascinating is how much of this beauty system was built on straight up illusions. And sometimes comedy. Because here's the truth, even in the Middle Ages, beauty routines went hilariously wrong. One 14th century diary describes a noblewoman who tried an arsenic-based hair removal paste on her forehead. The instructions said to leave it on for the time it takes to recite 3 prayers. She misjudged the speed of the priest's sermon and ended up removing not just her hairline, but part of her eyebrows, half her bangs, and a chunk of skin. The diary records her appearance as frightful to behold. Her solution? A decorative forehead band to cover the missing patch, which accidentally sparked a micro-trend among other noble women who thought it looked fashionable. Another micro-story comes from a French court where women used pigeon droppings mixed with vinegar as a skin-tightening mask. Supposedly, it refined the complexion. One lady applied too much, fell asleep, and woke up with a hardened mask that required 3 servants, warm water, and a kitchen knife to remove. Medieval fashion was bold. Medieval fashion was daring. Medieval fashion was improvisation. But beneath these comical disasters lies a more serious truth. Beauty was work. Grueling, painful, relentless work. And not just for noble women, because beauty in the Middle Ages didn't belong to just one gender. We tend to think of medieval beauty as a female concern, but medieval men had their own strange rituals too. And some were even more extreme. For instance, medieval knights were expected to maintain soft, almost boyish faces, no scars, no stubble, no rugged jawlines. A warrior could kill 10 men in battle, but God forbid he show up at court with rough skin. Men avoided tanning at all costs. In fact, a 12th century poem mocks a young man who came back from summer labour, brown as a nut, unfit for any lady's eye. Hair was another battlefield. Flowing, well-kept hair signified nobility. A monk chronicler once mocked a nobleman for having hair lank as wet rope, calling it a sign of moral weakness. Men plucked their hairlines too, not as dramatically as women, but enough to create a smooth, high forehead. Some even used lye-based solutions to straighten curls or lighten their hair to match fashionable, angelic, blonde shades. One medieval chronicler described a nobleman who accidentally bleached half his beard, leading to a lopsided appearance that became the butt of court jokes for years. And if you think modern men struggle with beard grooming, imagine maintaining a perfect, symmetrical shape in a world without mirrors. Yet all of this pales in comparison to the most quietly disturbing part of medieval beauty. The lengths people went to alter their bodies permanently. The Middle Ages did not have plastic surgery, but they had something close: permanent body shaping. And while it wasn't common, it reveals an unexpected truth about medieval beauty: that for all their symbolism and spirituality, medieval people were still human. They still chased trends. They still wanted to belong. Some elite women wrapped their torsos tightly from youth to achieve a narrow waist and delicate silhouette. Others bound their chests to preserve a virginal shape even into adulthood. Feet were softened with mixtures of rosewater and vinegar to maintain a delicate appearance. Hands too were a battleground of beauty. Noble women wore gloves indoors to keep their skin pale and soft. Some even applied mixtures of egg whites and alum to achieve a porcelain finish. One Romanesque-era manuscript describes a noble woman who coated her hands in honey and herbs overnight inside linen wraps, waking each morning to hands smooth as polished ivory. But another warned that leaving the mixture on too long could attract insects. Yes, medieval skincare sometimes meant waking up to ants crawling inside your gloves. But beauty wasn't just physical, it was deeply moralized. If your face didn't match the medieval ideal, if your skin was too dark, your chin too strong, your hair too full, your features too sharp, you weren't just unattractive, you were judged. A 13th century preacher wrote that the face reveals the soul, and that a woman with a harsh jaw or thick brows was likely to be argumentative and filled with earthly passions. Appearance wasn't fashion, it was theology. If your features matched the ideal, people assumed you were gentle, obedient, pure-hearted. If not, you were morally suspect. In a worldview shaped by the church, beauty became a kind of spiritual resume. And this had consequences: marriage prospects, social mobility, reputation, safety. There are stories of women accused of witchcraft because their appearance didn't fit the soft, pale, virtuous ideal. Sharp features, suspicious, darkened skin, sinful, too much body hair, clearly demonic. Beauty was a defense mechanism against suspicion, something that protected you almost as much as social status. But there's one more twist in this entire story, perhaps the most important one of all. Because for all the toxic powders, dangerous routines, superstitions, and extremes, medieval beauty also carried something modern beauty often forgets: identity. Medieval people didn't strive to look like each other. They strove to look like what their culture valued most. And while their ideals feel alien to us, there's something strangely human in their pursuit: the desire to belong, to be seen, to be worth something, to project the best version of yourself using the tools your world gave you. The strange truth: medieval beauty wasn't shallow, it was symbolic, it was spiritual, it was cultural. They weren't trying to be hot, they were trying to be worthy. And in its own bizarre, dangerous way, that's a kind of beauty we still chase today. So when you stand in front of a medieval portrait and think, why do they all look the same? Remember, they weren't painting people. They were painting ideals. The pale skin, the high forehead, the soft jawline, the watery eyes. They were painting the values a society believed in. And 500 years from now, someone will look at our beauty standards, our contour lines, our filled brows, our tans, our hairstyles, and wonder why we thought those things mattered. Beauty is a story every era tells about itself, and the Middle Ages told theirs with lead paint, plucked hairlines, soft jaws, and angelic eyes, strange, shocking, dangerous, and yet deeply, achingly human. Because no matter the century, one truth remains. People will always chase beauty, and beauty will always chase meaning. The standards change, the struggle stays the same, and in the end, every face, whether medieval or modern, is shaped by the world that made it.